Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be diving into something that's been kind of stirring up things, within the autism community.
Yeah,
It's this whole idea of autism as a superpower.
right.
And, at first glance, it sounds like pretty positive, right?
Mm.
But we're going to kind of peel back the layers on this one and see why maybe it's not vibing with everyone on the spectrum, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
and I think to help us unpack this,
yeah.
we're looking at this article from Cheap ABA
Yes.
called "Why Some Autistics Don't Believe Autism is a Superpower."
Exactly. And, we hear so much about like the strengths, right? Like autistic individuals often having this like incredible memory, laser focus, almost like Jedi Master level, and this ability to just like problem solve in ways that other people might not even think of.
It's true, yeah.
So it's easy to see where that superpower thing comes from.
Right. It definitely captures the imagination, right?
Yeah.
And I think the intention most of the time is good.
Yeah.
It's trying to, highlight those strengths, kind of push back against those old, negative stereotypes.
Yeah.
And really try to promote acceptance, which is, obviously important.
Yeah.
But it can sometimes feel like it's kind of glossing over
Right.
some of the really real challenges that people on the spectrum face every single day.
Yeah. It's not a comic book, right?
Right.
Life is a little more complicated than that.
For sure.
So when we talk about those challenges,
Yeah.
what are some of the things that maybe this superpower thing isn't really addressing?
Yeah. Well, I think a big one is sensory sensitivity.
Oh, okay.
The article cites some research that over 70%
Wow.
of autistic people experience sensory overload.
Yeah.
That impacts their daily lives,
Wow.
like significantly.
Yeah.
So imagine, trying to tap into your superpower of focus
Right.
when you're constantly being bombarded by, fluorescent lights or the noises of a busy coffee shop
No, I can't even imagine.
or even strong scents.
Right. Right. Exactly.
It's not so easy to be a superhero when your senses are kind of on high alert
Right.
all the time.
Yeah. It's almost like trying to run a race with like weights strapped to your ankles.
Right.
Like you might have the potential for speed, but the reality is it's not that simple, right?
Yeah.
And I think thinking about it that way, it's understandable why that superpower label could feel kind of, I don't know, jarring to some people or even like dismissive.
I think that's a good word for it
Yeah.
because it can create this pressure,
Oh, absolutely.
to perform, to live up to this very specific idea of what autism is.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily reflect everyone.
Right.
And then you get into the social communication aspect of it too,
Right.
which the article talks about.
Yeah, because it's not always just like, oh, they're a little quirky or, oh, that's just how they communicate. It can be a lot deeper than that. Right?
Yeah, and I think,
Yeah.
research even backs that up. I was reading in the Journal of Autism and Developmental Disorders.
Mm-hmm.
They found that these social communication differences can actually be a real significant source of stress
Oh, I bet.
and anxiety for
Yeah.
people.
Totally.
And again, if you're constantly kind of having to like be aware of
Yeah.
and trying to like almost decode these social cues,
Right.
it can be
It
exhausting.
can be. Yeah.
So it's like, how do you access those strengths even if they're there?
Right.
If you're dealing with that.
It's like having a superpower.
Yeah.
It needs like a very specific battery to work.
Right. And you can't always find that battery.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly. Yeah. Good analogy.
And then, we also have to think about the mental health piece of this too,
Okay. Yeah.
which the article brings up.
Yeah.
You know,
That's a big one.
and we know from, studies that autistic individuals may be more likely to experience things like anxiety
Mm-hmm.
than, their neurotypical peers.
Right. And it's not to say at all that, people on the spectrum can't be resilient or can't be, mentally strong.
No, not at all.
But it's just acknowledging that these are real struggles
That's
that
real.
can impact every single part of your life,
Yeah.
including how you experience your autism.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think when you are dealing with, something like anxiety,
Right.
to then have that pressure of like, but you have a superpower.
Right.
It's like, well, what good is it?
It's true.
It's like saying, oh, you can fly, and then handing them like a parachute
right.
that might not even open.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it also just kind of shows the danger of any time we try to oversimplify, right?
Yes.
The human experience is so complex, and and nuanced, you know? It's like this beautiful tapestry, you know?
I love that, the tapestry of human experience.
Yeah, and it really seems like a lot of this pushback on the superpower narrative is really about that.
Yeah,
It's about like, hey, we're different. Our experiences are different.
for sure.
Didn't the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, didn't they do a whole survey on this?
Yeah, they did. It was really interesting.
Yeah.
It wasn't like everybody hated the idea, right? Some people actually, really liked it.
Right.
They found it empowering, to kind of flip that script
Yeah.
from like deficit to strength.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of people who were like, yeah, no, that's not my experience.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, right?
Exactly.
It's not one size fits all.
It's not a monolith.
Right. You can't just slap a label on it and call it a day.
We like to categorize, though.
We do. We do.
Don't we, as humans?
It's easier,
It is.
It's easier to like put things in a box.
Right.
It'd be like, okay, I know what that is now.
Yeah. It's safe.
But when you're talking about people,
Right.
it gets messy,
It does. It gets really messy.
And I think we have to be okay with that messiness.
We do.
We have to be willing to kind of sit with the discomfort.
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, how do we move forward
Exactly.
in a way that is, respectful and actually helpful?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are some practical things then that we can do, even as listeners, right?
Yeah.
Like, how can we change our thinking, maybe?
Well, I think the article actually gives us some good things to think about here.
Okay, good.
The first thing is, like, we have to, like, really embrace the diversity within the autistic community.
Yes.
And I don't mean, like, just saying, oh, yeah, everybody's different.
Diversity's great.
Right.
Yeah. No, be real.
Like, really, really think about it.
Yeah.
Like, autistic experiences are not a monolith.
Right.
Just because one person, experiences something
Right.
in a certain way doesn't mean everybody does.
Yeah, it's like that spectrum,
Exactly. It's that spectrum. There's no one right way
Right.
to be artistic.
And I think along with that, right, it's
Yeah.
not just about accepting, like, those differences.
Right.
It's about, like,
Accepting the need for support.
yes, thank you.
Right? Like accepting that accommodations are okay.
Yeah.
That asking for help is not a weakness.
Because sometimes we need help.
Everybody needs help.
Everybody.
Yeah.
And speaking of support,
Yeah.
something else that really stood out to me in this article
Yeah.
was they talked a lot about centering autistic voices.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Like in this whole discussion, it
Yeah.
can't just be, people outside of the community
Right.
talking about it.
We need to hear from autistic people.
We need to be listening. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
And not just listening, right? But like actually really amplifying those voices.
Give me on platform. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Making sure that they're represented
Absolutely.
in the research,
Yeah.
in advocacy,
Hmm?
in the media, like everywhere. It's like we're always trying to put labels on things, huh? Not just when it comes to autism, but like in general.
Yeah. It's like we as humans, we like to categorize.
Right, do. We love a good
It
category.
helps us like organize stuff.
Right. Makes sense of the world.
Right. Exactly.
Makes us feel safe.
But sometimes those categories, they can make things feel kind of, I don't know.
Small.
Yeah, small. Like, especially when you're talking about like people's lived experiences,
It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't always work,
It doesn't. And we lose so much of the nuance,
Yeah.
the beauty of different.
The uniqueness.
Yeah, exactly. So as our listeners, they're out there, they're learning more about autism. Yeah.
Maybe they're learning more about, other ways that people are different. What would you say, like, the biggest takeaway is, what should people keep in mind as they're, like, going on this journey of learning and understanding?
I think just approach it all with curiosity,
Okay.
like with a genuine openness to learning and understanding.
Yeah.
And be willing to kind of let go of those old ideas.
The preconceived notions.
Yeah. Even if they feel like comfortable, because I promise you, like the more you lean into that complexity, the more you're going to learn, the more you're going to grow.
So true.
And the more you're going to kind of connect with just the beauty of the human experience,
I love that. That's a beautiful, beautiful thought to leave us with.
Thank you.
It's been such a pleasure, kind of going on this deep dive with you today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Your insights have been amazing. And to everyone listening out there, Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Keep those questions coming, keep that curiosity alive, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.